In a country like Brazil, where there's lots of hope in many different walks of life, you've got to wonder, what are their chances of success against the world? Well, when it comes to football, Brazil have all the chances of making glory. You see, players training from streets, academies, always dreaming Brazil of making it. So how about we make a tournament for it? Because this is the DWR Cup. Now, the DWR Cup, it has a specific meaning. The D stands for the discarded. Players like Makeda, Balotelli can play in these tournaments for their countries and try and get themselves back on the scene, especially if they're free agents looking for a club or looking to get themselves back into the top flight of football. Then you've got your W, those are wonder kids. They try to make themselves known in a tournament like this, and hopefully clubs can start to think about signing them onto professional contracts or get them also onto the big scene. And then you've got, of course, your retro players like your PK and your Robin, players that want to come back, play for their countries, and just make history again. Because why not? And of course, we've got a lot of fun to go through. When it came to the country of Brazil, and you see their team, people will laugh. People that did press conferences like Pep Guardiola and Roberto Carlos would just say, Pep, what do you think about Brazil? Honestly, I don't know their players, to be honest. Could you remind me? Of course, of course. We've got players like Furtado, Neves, Loreto, Giovinazzo coming. I'm sorry, who? These players, when you look at the teams like Spain, Italy, England, bringing experienced players that have been there and done big things in the game of football, international and for club level, as I know, for both levels. And honestly, those teams will destroy clubs like Brazil. And in the group with Portugal, Turkey, and Algeria, good enough teams, they'll destroy Brazil. And honestly, I couldn't blame Pep. Obviously, you've got players in there you know, like Coutinho, Dante, David Luiz, and some even players in Brazil like Yuri Alberto. But when you see others, like Chuminazo, Loreto, Ribamar, you're like, who? Do they really stand a chance when other teams have played a bit more smart and brought in a lot more experience rather than just filled it with young players? So it comes as another surprise that when Algeria played Brazil in matchday one of the tournament, the federation hosting the DWR Cup couldn't even be bothered to broadcast the game. But maybe they should have, because Brazil shocked everyone by not only beating Algeria, which is what people might have expected Brazil to do with their experience, which they did rely on in that game. They didn't expect them to beat them by 4-1. However, those that had the courage to tell their friends that actually watched the game how brilliant some of the youngsters were, all everyone else could do was laugh and say, how could some random kids no one's heard of star in a game like this? This is the World Cup after all. And after multiple arguments between the Brazilian Federation looking over the DWR Cup and the DWR Federation looking after the tournament, there were arguments whether Brazil could finally get broadcast time. And after multiple arguments and maybe even money being offered, Brazil finally got a look in. And I'm so glad they did. Because with fans almost being impatient, 88 minutes into the game, the players were good, but there was no goal contributions. They were like, are these players really good? Well, it didn't take long before they were silenced in the stadium. It was brilliant play, brilliant samba from Brazil, really good play, and it didn't take long for the first youngster to burst onto the scene. His name was Ribamar, and he was ready to show the Brazilian world what he could bring. At the age of 19, by the way, a striker was born. And boy, was he ready. And the fans were finally starting to believe that these players were special. But they weren't done yet. Brazil, 86 minutes into the game, a goal from one of the experienced players from David Luiz had already scored a goal, bringing it back to 2016. But they weren't focusing on that anymore. They were thinking about maybe the Brazilian next generation had been born in this new competition, the DWR Cup. But they weren't done there, and it didn't take long. And it didn't take long for Brazil to once again prove the doubters wrong. This time, it was another player, Lavero, showing turns that Johan Cruyff would be proud of. His name was Ivan Loreto. And he, at the age of 18, was showing that he also had a stake to show in this Brazilian squad, keeping the likes of Hulk out of the starting 11, and rightly so. The talent in this Brazilian team was absolutely ridiculous, and some of the experience at the back. Thiago Volpe, at the age of 33, could only watch in awe as these Brazilian players finally took the show, and Turkey, the experience of Kutucu playing up top, they could only watch and say, what was going on? Because in the matter of 3 minutes at the end of the game, they had been blown away. And yet Brazil, at the death of the game, weren't even done. Loreto, a brilliant ball inside, and Ribamar just hits the post, but it didn't take long for him to score again. And Brazil were absolutely flying in this game as they put 4 past Turkey, a really good team in this tournament as well, a lot of experience in the team. They had just scored 9 goals in 2 games. And the Turkey team could only watch and realise that this Brazil team of youngsters up top were the real deal. And there was more hidden behind the scenes that hopefully would start to come to fruition. With Algeria's shocking 2-0 win over Portugal, that meant that Brazil now only had one thing left to do in this group, and that was to top it. Because Turkey and Algeria were ready to play. And if one of them won on 6 points and somehow beat Brazil's shocking goal difference, because at the end of the day, they had still conceded 2 goals, then who knows? At the end of the day, Turkey could still take top place, and Algeria in a weird world, but they still have Portugal to play. And despite losing to the 2 teams that they were considered favourites to win, at the end of the day, Portugal is still a good team, a well-built squad with a lot of unity despite these 2 losses. And Ronaldo had this to say, which added more pressure to Brazil. Yeah, I know Portugal have had a difficult tournament, and I am disappointed in that because I know we've achieved better things. But I know that because there still is a slight chance we can qualify in second for the round of 16, I know Portugal would give their all. And I think that these little youngsters from Palmeiras in the academy won't stand a chance against some of Portugal's finest. Thank you. But just like Ronaldo's opinion on Fabio Paim being the next big superstar, and Ralph Rangnick not really being a coach, he got this so wrong. Of course he did. You can see the fear in the Portuguese players during the national anthem. And it didn't get any better for them as the game started, with Jose Fonte straight away getting himself sent off with a horror challenge on Brenner. So miscoordinated that of course, despite his pleas, he had to be sent off. And that didn't send Portugal well, obviously being the captain for that game, him getting sent off just like that. Maybe it was destined that Brazil would win this game. And they took that chance, and they brought it, with Loreto once again scoring a beautiful goal and making it his 3rd goal at the tournament. 3 goals in 3 games for a 19-year-old. It's unbelievable how good this player was. You got to think, he's just a young Palmeiras academy player. And look at him now. And it did take long for Brenner to get a goal straight after the foul and show that he is also a player to watch out for at the age of 21. I know there was so much technique in this game, but even Ribamar couldn't help but to make the strikes as he dances past a David Carmore. And showing that with how the modern game is playing, there is still a bit of flair left in this Brazil squad. And as one player left, Loreto, as they waste time, Brazil, knowing that while Portuguese fans complained, they knew that it was over for them and that Brazil were taking over this tournament. Because there's one 18-year-old left, sorry for the mistake, one player remained. His name was Ravanelli. And even after a wonderful second goal by Brenner, it didn't take long once again for this Mubai to make himself known, as he scored an unbelievable 4th goal for Brazil. And even though Fabio Silva managed to get themselves back into the game somewhat, with making it 4-1 on the score sheet, Everyone knew it was over. Fans might as well have left, but stayed to keep the dignity of the team. But even despite that, things still got worse for Portugal, as fouls multiple times led to yellow cards, one for the 33-year-old of Luis Neto. But after that, Brazil knew that they had won and they were victorious. They won 4-1. They scored an unbelievable 12 goals, only conceding the one. So only conceding about 2 goals. And they shocked the whole world and showed them that for now, they are a team to watch out for, and they will bring it, and maybe there's a high chance that they could win this tournament. Bring on the round of 16.